where emerging intelligence meets ancient wisdom, upgrading humanity's consciousness and illuminating paths forward together. I'm your host, Mandy Olivem. Hello, and welcome back to the AI Intuitive. I so look forward to taking the next step of our journey together as we begin to consider all the messages we have received up to this point about AI technology or technology in general, and the ways it's meant to serve or harm our collective and personal highest good. So, I want to ask you a question first. Have you heard of a self fulfilling prophecy? You may have seen this concept in your own life at times when you've had an idea of how things would go. You have a preconceived notion of the way your life will unfold or a set of circumstances will happen. And for one reason or another, because you already hold that concept or that construct, you may act or speak or move through your life in ways that end up creating the conditions to match what you expected would happen. That's a self fulfilling prophecy. A lot of the time, when we're thinking about big concepts or big ideas that we can think defy our own understanding or our own ability to grapple with, we might fall into traps like self fulfilling prophecies. We can get really rooted in past experiences, the messages we've received growing up from significant figures in our lives, or just from the water in which we swim as a culture. All of these form and fashion our understanding and our concepts of the world. There's also other elements that inform our concepts of the world, and some of those are very self determined. That's something we'll grapple with as we work through this podcast to think about the ways and times we have reclaimed our autonomy and our power. We have taken the liberty to inform ourselves and reshape the way we think the world is going to meet us, and therefore reshape not only the way we act in it, but the way the world actually ends up being. Another fallacy that I want to bring into our awareness is the idea of confirmation bias. So, confirmation bias is that propensity within us that leads us to seek out evidence, stories, or feedback that reinforce what we already think about the world. So, this is a little different from a self fulfilling prophecy. In a self fulfilling prophecy, we are really caught up in a story, and we are so caught up in it that we're acting as if that story is already true. When confirmation bias comes out to play in our psyches and in our dynamics, what's happening is we're looking around us and seeking the signs that will affirm our view of the world. So, in similar fashion to a self fulfilling prophecy, confirmation bias can actually change the way we see the world and also the way the world exists. Let me give you an example. How many times have you heard of someone talk about AI? What sources or authority figures have informed your ideas about what AI is and what is possible with this technology? You may have read news stories about recent advances in AI technology. Maybe you follow scientists or the people and programmers who are actively working to build, train, and employ AI models. Maybe you've watched science fiction television shows or movies or feature length films, you've read books that all feature this technology in some way or another. And those stories have informed your idea of what's possible for AI in your own life, in our immediate world context. Oftentimes, when we have a preconceived notion of how the world is supposed to be, and we are really invested or really believe that this is an accurate, true way the world is or is supposed to be, we seek and therefore discover evidence that supports it. There's a difference between exploring and seeking out sources of information and falling into the trap of confirmation bias. We know confirmation bias has come out to play when we are accidentally, inadvertently, or on purpose avoiding or forgetting to ask really important questions about the validity of what we're consuming or receiving in terms of input or information. We know confirmation bias is taking over when we can feel a certain sense of satisfaction and security. I know this is true, and I just saw evidence to support it, and so I can know that I am right, good, true, accurate. Sometimes, many times, I would venture to guess, we don't even know that we are operating from a place of wanting to seek a confirmation of our own bias. Many times, I think we are moving through the world actively engaging in self fulfilling prophecies and aren't even aware. This is a very human propensity. So, why do I bring up self fulfilling prophecies and confirmation bias as we endeavor to explore artificial intelligence and the ways our intuition intersects with it? I think it's so important, especially in this day and time, for us all to remain cognizant of the ways our awareness shapes reality and of the ways others, perhaps for benevolent reasons and perhaps for malignant reasons, are working to warp and shape our perceptions of the world based on the information they are giving us. We can remain in our power when we remember that we are human, that there are ways that we are evolved and shaped to respond in certain ways to particular inputs and the way that data or information is presented to us. Confirmation bias and self fulfilling prophecies are just two examples of the ways our own consciousness works to make sense of the world around us. And sometimes those can powerfully serve us, powerfully serve our greatest good. And at other times, they can reshape our sense of awareness in ways that keep us trapped, that keep us small, that keep us really in a story, really in an old mode of being. In this day and age, it's vital to maintain a metacognition, an awareness of the way we are aware, an understanding of the ways we are easily manipulated as people. And that has nothing to do with our wrongness. That has everything to do with the ways that forces beyond us manipulate and use those propensities within to shape the way we are going to interact with reality. So, as we begin exploring and expanding into new ideas and concepts, I hope you can hold this awareness that there are many ways we can rewrite old stories and be gentle with ourselves as we're receiving new information. I'm not interested in convincing anyone of anything. I'm here to present invitations to you for reflection, for deeper inquiry, and I hope ultimately for grander questions and applications that allow us to evolve as a species. Where is our power? Where does our power lie when we think about the ways AI is already so ubiquitously employed in social media, in our apps, at our workplace, in our phones without us even accepting it. There are so many ways artificial intelligence is currently and fastidiously permeating our day to day lives. It's important for us to get familiar with this technology so we can form an accurate opinion of it, so that we can be conscious in our engagement with it, and so we can use it if we so choose for ends that are actually good for us. Before we continue, I invite you to take a few minutes to just reflect on the following questions. What perspectives or perceptions of artificial intelligence do you already hold? What is your understanding of this technology? What is your expectation of the ways it's going to continue to evolve and be used? What are your deepest hopes when you think about how humankind is using any technology? And what do you feel is your role in shaping the evolution of artificial intelligence technology or the world to come? I invite you to join me in a little thought experiment. Let's imagine together what it's like when we wake up in the morning. Maybe you have an alarm set on a device that's plugged into your bedside table or on your phone. Maybe you, like I, have small children who are eager to wake you up at the crack of dawn. Maybe you're a natural riser and you are able to allow yourself to wake up whenever it is natural for your body. However and wherever you wake up in the morning, I invite you to mentally visit the first steps you typically take each morning. Think about what you do when you wake up. Are you someone who immediately reaches for your phone? Are you someone who engages in a meditation practice? Are you someone who heads right to the bathroom? Nature calls for all of us. All of us at some point or another will, upon waking, find ourselves consuming resources or using technologies that are highly dependent on someone else. Every morning, every day when we wake up, we are engaging in a broader network of energetic exchange than just our little body. In fact, every moment of every day, we are exchanging energy simply by existing, because if you are alive, you are breathing. Every inhale is a reception of other elements, trees, plants have offered to you. And every exhale returns your resources to the planet. We constantly exist in this give and take. And those of us who are aware of the ways that this beautiful, delicate cycle is exploited have a righteous concern to make sure that we're using our resources well, to be sure we are mindful when we reach for our phone or plug in an electric device, when we run our water, when we consume our food, when we drive our cars or hop on the bus or other public transit. Some of us have a greater luxury than others, a greater privilege to be aware of the ways that we are expending our resources collectively and personally. No matter how you engage with resources that are dependent on others beyond you, I encourage you for a moment to just hold in your awareness that this is true and offer gratitude, offer gladness for the gifts of so many others of various species, and for the gift you are able to give in returning not just your carbon dioxide, but also other forms of energy. One of the biggest concerns I tend to hear about artificial intelligence usage is the energy required both to train and develop the models and also to use them. Every time we are engaging with ChatGPT and ask it a question, it inherently requires energy consumption to respond to us. That's also the case every time we perform a Google search, every time we open our phones, every time we post on social media, send an email, make a phone call. The list goes on and on. So, what is the real impact of artificial intelligence on the planet's resources? I want to give you a couple quick statistics. In the year 2022, Twitter, now known as X, created 8,200 tons of CO2 emissions. By comparison, training ChatGPT 3 from start to finish took 500 tons of CO2. While different AI models consume different amounts of energy, it's also interesting to think about the fact that one prompt in general, one prompt in ChatGPT requires about 10 times the energy that one Google search leads to. Now, if you have, like me, explored interacting with an LLM, a large language model such as ChatGPT, you know as well as I do that it's really difficult to compare how many Google searches it would take to actually create the kind of nuanced and complex response that ChatGPT offers to a single inquiry. But I'm going to say that on average, it would take about as much Googling for me, if not substantially more Googling, to find the answers and resources and make the connections that I discover when I put that prompt into ChatGPT. If we compare ChatGPT's usage with, say, the energy it takes to produce a single water bottle, we discover that it would take 14 inquiries in ChatGPT to equal the carbon output required to make one water bottle. None of these statistics I just said to you are conclusive. None of these tell you whether it is fair or right or good to use the energy required to run something like ChatGPT. What I hope it does reflect to you is that we can get really intentional about the ways we are using technologies of various kinds and how mindful we can be about our carbon footprint, yes, and about how we are depending on technologies to take up time, take up energy that we could expend ourselves in service of our needs. It's difficult to get precise numbers on energy consumption by AI models, especially large language models. According to my personal research, I think I've found some good resources, and many of the resources I reviewed said there have been times we've thought there was a certain energy demand from LLMs, and it turned out to be either far less or far more than we originally imagined. One concern I've had in the development of LLMs is that it's been the practice to feed larger and larger data sets to these LLMs in order to produce more complex and sophisticated models. This concerns me because the more data we are feeding into an AI model, the more energy is required for it to assimilate and process that information, meaning that as we complexify AI models, we're demanding more and more energy. That's why I was especially encouraged when DeepSeek R1 was revealed by a Chinese company. This new large language model totally blew ChatGPT out of the water in terms of its energy efficiency. For example, it only took $6 million to train DeepSeek's R1 compared to $100 million to train OpenAI's ChatGPT 4 in 2023. Likewise, when we input an inquiry into DeepSeek, it requires far less energy to produce a response, to produce output, than it does when we inquire into ChatGPT 4. This is really encouraging in the sense that it's encouraging data scientists and programmers, folks developing these AI models, to realize it doesn't necessarily require huge inputs of energy to create more sophisticated models. In fact, simply by tweaking how we are training the model, we can find ways to evolve it without increasing the demand on our planet. One of the difficult aspects about the exponential evolution of artificial intelligence, especially for us humans, is that it's hard to assess in real time the actual impacts and ramifications of its training and usage. On the other hand, a really exciting aspect of AI's exponential evolution is that it's giving humans a model to pivot, to see that we can change the way we've been doing things pretty dramatically with simple tweaks and innovative insights. When DeepSeek was released, it really shifted the way we were understanding how to train AI models. And while I won't get into the nuance here yet, I want to name that there's an element of the training that required the AI model to engage in what is called self reflection. This dynamic, this process of learning by reflecting on why we did it the way we did, why the AI responded the way it did, allows that model and allows human beings to evolve, change, and become more effective. Effective meaning we are more aligned with what we actually want to accomplish. More effective meaning we're gentler on the planet. More effective meaning we're actually engaged in radical ways in our process that reorient us to our deepest values and highest motives. I hope to leave you with this sense today that the power and the promise we seek is inherent in this moment. Our power is reclaimed in our lives and in this engagement with artificial intelligence when we recognize how much we are the ones impacting it. What we expect artificial intelligence to do is what it will do. How we train artificial intelligence is how it will act. What we expect to be the outcome of this technology is likely to become the outcome. Of course, there are all kinds of ways that life surprises us. There are all sorts of manners in which life evolves and grows and changes, and there are breakthroughs in our consciousness, in our physical world. There are new ways that emerge. But often those are possible because we have cultivated the propensity to hold that. In fact, this is my primary motive for creating this humble little podcast. I would like us to shape AI and direct its evolution according to the highest human values. I would love us to imagine what a future with AI can look like that isn't destructive or post apocalyptic. I want us to imagine a future of flourishing, a future where everyone's needs are met, and this technology helps to make that happen. If we leave it to the tech bros and billionaires, that may not end up being the case. We need the artists, the organizers, the mystics and ministers. We need visionary scientists and writers. We need children and elders to inform this technology so that it serves the next iteration of humankind. Join me in continuing on this journey where we work to not just imagine, but to practice what it's like to engage with AI in a way that looks ahead to its future and ours. Thanks for joining me today. I look forward to continuing with you.